Good evening, and welcome to Woes Wednesdays. I realize this video will be going up a little late, and most of you won't see it till, well, Thursday, unless you're in a few specific places. But I still wanted to do my Woe Wednesday video. So today, continuing talking about role-playing games, talk about something of a different nature than mechanics. Talk about role-playing game morality. Now, for people who have played a couple of role-playing games, you'll remember or recognize that most role-playing games have some level of morality system. There are the good guys, there are the bad guys. You know, depending on the game, it's going to vary a bit, but most role-playing games have some form of morality that they use. D&D has the very famous good versus evil, law versus chaos, where at diametric poles you have the lawful good people and the chaotic evil people, the chaotic good people and the lawful evil people, and then you have various levels of neutral of each extreme alignment, and then true neutral in the middle. It's been used for numerous games, although as far as I know, the first one that exists comes from D&D, Pathfinder, Starfinder. I'm not sure how many other games use it, but it's a very common system for describing what your character's morals are. Another system that I've seen used from World of Darkness is a morality ranking. In Old World, you have your morality of your values. So different groups of people will have different values. Road of Humanity, Path of Sin, Path of Night, Path of Bones, Road of Kings. They have different values, so you have a ranking of how high you are on this road, and depending on the ranking of your road, you are more or less susceptible to, for at least vampire, you're susceptible to your beast. So your morality defines your ability to resist the utter chaos of the beast inside you. And the lower it is, the more susceptible you are. The higher it is, the easier of a time you have resisting it. In New World of Darkness, every different species has a morality that is associated with them. So for humans, it's morality. For vampires, it's humanity. That's how close to being a human they are. I don't remember what all of them are, but each one has their own values and own sins that defines their morality. Interesting thing about World of Darkness is that in Old World of Darkness, you had your morality, which was how much you could resist certain things or what was going to make you more crazy or less crazy. And then you also had a nature and demeanor. Nature being who you are, and demeanor being how you present. But in New World of Darkness, you had a virtue and vice. Or at least in first edition, you had a virtue and vice. In second edition, they've changed it up a bit. It's more traits now. But the virtue and vice. So you have your core virtue and your core vice. And that was a description of what kind of person you are. So you have your how moral you are, and then you have what kind of person you are. So your values are kind of split up into two parts in that system. Now, talking about morality, out of role-playing games, we have our perceptions of what a moral person or an immoral person is. And your moral person is the guy who saves the cat from the tree, runs into a burning building, stops on the side of the road to help a bystander from an accident, etc., etc., etc. And you have your bad person, the person who's stealing things and killing people and whatnot. And role-playing game morality generally doesn't follow real-world morality very closely. For example, your average party of D&D adventurers go into town, find out about some homeless people on the outskirts of whatever town you're in, and they go in there and they kill everyone in the who is hiding in a cave to have shelter, murder them, take their stuff, go back to town, and sell the stuff. Obviously, I'm portraying it in an odd light, but you go and you kill a bunch of orcs in their camp. Now, orcs are evil, so if you're good, you kill them. But that's not really moral. I mean, murdering people is wrong, right? But they're evil. It's why we have the term munchkin in role-playing games, or murder hobos. Murder hobos is a great example of a role-playing game example, but why it won't work in real life. Murder hobos are described as a group of people who are homeless, who go around murdering things for their treasure and carry around enough money to destabilize a small country. If anybody in the real world was doing this, they'd be at the top of the FBI's most wanted. It doesn't even matter what they were killing. If they were just running around indiscriminately killing large numbers of anything, even not people, just randomly murder a whole bunch of deer, cut them up, sell their pelt, sell the meat, move on to the next town, we're talking about some grade A terrorists. But in D&D, we just let this go. The morality is on the loose. We don't enforce morality in D&D like we would in the real world. Now, admittedly, this is because it's a game. It's not real. But it leads to some fairly absurd situations. You have your lawful good paladin going on a homicidal murder spree because orcs are evil, right? Paladin's not supposed to be murdering people, but let's be real. If you have a clan of orcs that you just sort of stumbled upon, they haven't done anything, you don't know of any crimes they've committed, you're just assuming that. Judge, jury, and executioner without even seeing a crime. It's racial profiling. So, it's a little confusing seeing how morality plays out when you're playing role-playing games. In World of Darkness, a lot of times you commit all sorts of heinous crimes, and the big rule is don't get caught. Don't think too hard about it and don't get caught. You don't you don't want to do those things where people can see them. And if you're a vampire, you don't want to bite people in public. You take them into the dark alley, you seduce them and bring them back to your apartment. Something. Anyway, you hide what you're doing. You don't make it obvious. That's how you feed. You try not to kill the people you feed from. You just sort of make them lightheaded and woozy. You want to preserve the fact that the vampires are secret. They don't exist. The masquerade. You want to maintain the masquerade. We're just a bunch of night owl humans. Obviously, there are other groups in World of Dark, in the vampire world, that are less discretionary and are much more willing to kill indiscriminately, turn a man into a beach volleyball, and play hacky sack with him. I've heard of it happening. I don't think I was there for it, but these games happen. But yeah. So morality. The people turning a person into a beach volleyball and then playing hacky sack with them are obviously bad dudes. But given the nature of the game, that's a-okay behavior. On the other hand, the good guys are happy to blackmail, bribe, and otherwise do heinous things to the world of the humans, just so long as they don't break the masquerade. Backstabbing and all sorts of other behaviors are perfectly acceptable. Heck, even encouraged, depending on which clan and group you're with. So, morality is a fickle thing when we're talking about a role-playing game. It's very context dependent. It's game dependent. It's group dependent. There are plenty of groups where raping and pillaging your way through a village just won't fly. But then there are plenty of groups where they're all happy to be murder hobos with no sense of good. Which group are you in? Personally, I'm less of a fan of the murder hobo style of play, but that's because it's very munchkin-y and murder hobo-y. You're just running around killing stuff to get money, to get better gear, to go kill more things. What? No plot, no story. It's very one-dimensional, maybe two-dimensional. I like to play characters with 3 dimensions. I think I've mentioned my bard before, but if I haven't, I have a character in a 2nd edition game, Lana Mur. He is a bard in 2nd edition D&D. But he's not your typical bard. He is a, gosh, I forget the name of the kid. He's a liar. He's a conman. He's very, very good at telling lies. He tells the best lies, the greatest lies. He's a redhead, doesn't like to stick his neck out, and he's going to lie his way to becoming king one day. He is loosely based upon a president whose last name rhymes with Rump. Loosely. So, this is a character who, on first impression, you're just like, well, he's a liar. But he's an adventurer. He is happy to go out and do things. He will stick to the back. He'll stick to the shadows. He tends not to be the most brave, little craven, cowardly guy. But he's been known to do some heroic things from time to time. He killed a giant with 1 shot the other week. I mean, he does stuff. He's a contributor. He's not dead weight. He's much better in a town than in a dungeon, but he's happy to contribute in all sorts of interesting ways, and he's very clever and amazing liar. Tells the best lies, the greatest lies, can play any role. That's what kind of guy he is. So he's not as shallow as he may first appear. And a big part of the reason for that is that I like to play a character who's more than a murder hobo. He doesn't just want to buy a kingdom, because buying a kingdom really is accumulate enough wealth and then purchase land. And now I have a kingdom because I'm king. I own the land. I hired soldiers because I have lots of money. So I'm king. It's boring. So he wants to lie his way to becoming king, which is, well, ambitious. How many kings do you know are willing to give up their throne to a mysterious outsider? He has to craft a persona, insert it into a court, convince everyone that his persona is real, get his way up to being the king's favorite, and then convince the king to retire and put him in as king. And somehow he thinks this will make his life very easy. It's been his dream since he was a small child, makes his life very easy. And he's not a bad guy. He's a chaotic neutral guy. He's not a bad guy, but he's not a good guy exactly. He mostly is out for, well, number one. He's a bard. He's a liar. Out for number one. He's not vindictive. He's not really evil. He's not actually interested in hurting people. He just doesn't care about other people very much. He cares about himself. He's pretty deluded into thinking that becoming king will solve all his problems and he will have a wonderful life because of it. He probably will find that being king is a pain in the neck. And then he'll leave. And there will be no king. But that's the kind of person he is. That's a lot more descriptive than what chaotic neutral would tend to indicate. People tend to think chaotic neutral is fuck everybody, I got mine. But I mean, just because I'm looking out for number one doesn't mean fuck everybody, I got mine. It's I care about my circle, but I'm not so concerned about what laws and legal ramifications there are. I don't have any problem doing some sleight of hand to pay half what a room costs. I'll have the nicest room in the house, but I'll pay about as much as the person getting a mediocre room. I don't have a problem with this. I'm clever. They're not as clever as me. I sleight of hand, and they got half the money that they were supposed to get, and they just figured it was their mistake. That's the kind of thing I do. Am I being vindictive to the story? Oh, maybe, but I'm not doing it out of spite. I'm doing it because I'm just that clever. Other people might perceive it as, well, a wrongful act, although, given my current party, they'd probably be like, you lucky dog, you. You're not exactly the most moral group of mercenaries to begin with. And we are a lot closer to mercenaries than murder hobos. We do things out of self-interest, but not just to kill things for no reason. We actually care about things a bit. Sorry, it's been a long day. But going back to morality, we a lot of people playing role-playing games, in my experience, don't think about morality very deeply, at least not at first. So you get these very interesting new gamers who are like, well, I'm lawful good, so I'm going to do the right thing all the time, unbounding, and that's where terms like lawful stupid comes from, or chaotic medieval, or I mean, you get these tropes of people who are super one-dimensional, and I mean, alignment's really a starting place for a character's morals, not really supposed to be the end-all, be-all of a character's morals. It's supposed to be a descriptive tagline to give you a perspective of how to work. You're not a Greek god of something where chaotic good describes your entire entity and all that is you. You're a person. People are not one-dimensional. Just because you don't like laws doesn't mean you're going to go out of your way to break them just because it's a law. I'm chaotic, so I'm going to arbitrarily break the law. That's not how chaotic good works. It's just not. You don't just break the law because you want to break laws. Chaotic neutral doesn't go out of their way to be obnoxious. That's not what chaotic neutral is about. Chaotic neutral has been abused by so many players because it's not evil, not good, and doesn't follow and is opposed to law. So fuck it, I'll do what I want. And that's not really what the morals are about. Chaotic neutral is more of a, I don't care for the restrictions of the law, but I'm not going out of my way to break the law. That's stupid. I may not care about what the speed limit is, but I'm not going to arbitrarily break it for no reason. That only invites harm and danger upon myself and others. Chaotic people aren't, even chaotic neutral people aren't going to do that because they can. Now, chaotic evil might, but chaotic evil, as I suggested with chaotic Meevil, tends to be looking out for number one and hate the world. So you have a what is it, a misanthrope who, a selfish misanthrope who has magic and violence and can indiscriminately use it. That's kind of chaotic evil. It is not common to find a person in the real world who's chaotic evil. In fact, I think you'd be hard-pressed to find a good example of chaotic evil anywhere in modern history at the very least. Maybe ancient history has a few better examples, but most people tend to be pretty lawful, or close to it. Maybe they're only neutral, but most people are not chaotic in that they want to break laws. They don't like laws. Even people who claim to not like laws tend to actually really appreciate laws and the legal system and justice, and they tend to be, even people who don't like our legal system, being an American, or a legal system and a justice system, they don't trust police. That doesn't mean that they are opposed to having a legal system and opposed to having laws. They just don't trust the people who are currently enforcing it. And that's common. That makes sense. But even that's not really chaotic. You don't have a lot of people who, you know what, I'm so sick of humanity, I'm going to go out and live in the woods. I mean, we have a homeless population, but not a lot of that homeless population is vagrant by choice. You have a lot more people who are homeless because bad thing happened and now they're homeless. You don't have a lot of people who are homeless who screw society, I'm going off. I'm going to do my own thing. It's not common. It's not humanity. It's not a very descriptive method of looking at humanity. Now, admittedly, characters in role-playing games are supposed to be the heroes of the story. They're supposed to be exceptional. But even when you look at exceptional individuals, the number of people who are going off and living in the wilderness is very small. I mean, that's why Naked and Afraid is a big show, because, well, the number of people doing that is small. Very few people are big survival, not too feel like they can survive in the wilderness for 21 days. Now, admittedly, 21 days is a pretty long time to be naked and without good tools for surviving. I mean, it is. You don't have good tools, and that makes it a little difficult to hunt. I'm way off topic here. Reeling it back in. So, I guess the two big morality systems I've seen are in World of Darkness and D&D. I'm trying to think of another one. You know what the other system that you typically see is? It's not exactly a morality system, but it's a renown system or a fame system. So you often have a morality system, but for the games that don't have that, it typically moves over to this fame system, where you're known for, you have like a positive or negative fame based upon what you do. So it's, as opposed to a morality system that's my internal compass of here's who I am inside me. We have an external morality system. This is what I'm known for. And that's, in some ways, a little more realistic. I saved a bunch of people, positive fame. People know me for being a good guy. I murder a bunch of people, negative fame. People know me for being a bad guy. It doesn't say much about me. It says a lot about what people think about me. It happens to be a little bit closer to reality because people don't know you. I mean, they know you, but they don't know you. They don't know your inner thought, your inner heart, your intentions, what's governing your decisions. To go with Poe's law, Godwin's law, Hitler may have believed he was doing a good thing. Everyone's the hero of their own story. You'll hear these antidotes being thrown out about morality, and it's very true. Nobody thinks about themselves as a murdering, selfish bastard. Even murdering, selfish bastards are cleansing the world of an impurity. I mean, you see it in Criminal Minds. The guy who's going around killing all of the blonde women wearing skimpy clothing isn't doing it because he thinks that he doesn't think about himself as the murdering, horrible dude. He thinks about himself as killing the unfaithful women in the world. For example, the harlots. He's purifying the world of harlots. He's the hero in his own narrative. D&D's internal moral compass, given the appropriate amount of perturbing, lawful good could be used to justify horrible acts. Acts that obviously should break the Paladin's oath, but it's justified because they're bad. I don't. But fame is what you're known for. It doesn't matter that Hitler thought he was doing the world a favor by killing millions of Jews. He is known in history as a very awful person because he killed millions of Jews. Fame happens to be a little more realistic system for morality in my book because, well, that's kind of more like how the real world works. Now, you can say, but that's not a morality system. But most moral systems are based upon what other people perceive of your actions. They're usually not based upon intent. Now, we admit that intent has a role. When you go before the court and you were arrested because you ran over 5 dudes, was it because I was trying to murder 5 dudes, or was it because my tire blew out and my car rolled over those 5 guys? Now, was I recklessly driving? I mean, it doesn't mean I was trying to murder them. Maybe I was, maybe I wasn't. But my intent starts to come into play with something like that. But when we're talking about D&D, I mean, intent's the only thing they're measuring, not what you did. I feel like it's a little distorted, and it gives people then try to take D&D and extrapolate it to the real world, and it's terrible. I've not seen it ever done right, because everyone would like to believe they're the good guy in their story. You don't have people believe that they're the bad guy in their story, and kind of the problem with a simplistic morality system. You can't gamify the real world very accurately, and you can't take a game system and make it into the real world 100%. It's going to have a ton of flaws, and that's something that you just have to sort of acknowledge. You can use it sometimes. Sometimes it works. Sometimes it doesn't. But yeah. So I've rambled for quite a while about morality. I hope this was educational or informational to you guys. If there's a topic that you guys would like me to cover, or something else you'd like me to talk about, feel free to leave a comment, and I'll see you guys next week.